Hello, everyone, and welcome to the season 10 premiere of the Mixtape podcast, where we talk about movies from a screenwriter's perspective, but also movies that we love. Up this week, we are doing a personal favorite of mine and a personal favorite of Marcelo's. We are doing The Fifth Element, released in 1997, directed by Luc Besson, written by Luc Besson and Robert Mark Kamen. I will be your host. My name is Dean, and I am joined by my co host, Marcelo. If you don't know what The Fifth Element is, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out. This is one of the best sci-fi movies ever made in the history of sci-fi movies. And if you haven't seen it, just get the fuck out. Just get this fucking leave. But if you have, stick with us because we're going to be reviewing the shit out of it. In the 23rd century, a cab driver finds himself battling an evil force during an apocalyptic war. Struggled to get that out. Okay, the opening scene. We're in Egypt, 1914. An archaeologist is deciphering ancient text in a temple, and he's looking at all these symbols on the wall, and he says, "When the three planets are in eclipse, a door is open. Evil comes, spreading chaos, but only every 5,000 years." And then he sees more symbols. He sees four elements surrounding a fifth element, which is in the shape of a person. Now, an alien ship lands just outside the temple. The aliens walk into the temple and say that war is coming and the stones aren't safe on Earth anymore. The aliens enter a hidden room in the temple via a key. A sarcophagus stands upright in the middle of the room, surrounded by the four unique stones or elements that the archaeologist was looking at on the wall. They grab the stones and the sarcophagus and they leave. And they say that evil will return in 300 years. And when that happens, they will come back.
One of the hardest things to do as a screenplay writer is set up your story in a allotted amount of time. And by an allotted amount of time, I mean really, really quickly. And the opening of The Fifth Element sets up the premise, it sets up your hero, and it sets up the MacGuffins that the hero or the MacGuffin of this movie, The Fifth Element, needs to save the universe. I absolutely love that because as a audience member, modern movies take forever to set up their plot and what their movie is about, but The Fifth Element wastes no time whatsoever. It introduces its plot, it introduces its MacGuffins, and it also the opening to this film has a certain style to it, and it has a certain kick to it. The world feels alive and lived in, even in the past, not to mention where we're about to go in just a few seconds here. So I love the way that Luc Besson sets the table in the opening of The Fifth Element. It's wonderful.
So now we go to 300 years later, and a huge, like, fireball planet is headed to Earth. And the military sees this, and they've got ships in space, and they fire nukes at it because they don't know what it is, but it's coming closer to Earth. But when the nukes strike the planet, it only increases in size, and now they don't know what to do. Now, a priest comes in to talk to the president. His name is Vito Cornelius, and he tells the president, this thing that you call a planet, it's actually an evil force, and please don't fire at it because it's basically just going to piss it off and make it angry. It's going to do nothing. And of course, they don't listen to him because they're the military. They're not going to listen to a priest. And so they fire at it again, and it increases in size, and it ends up destroying the military spaceships that are firing at it. And now they don't know what to do.
Again, I love how Luc Besson really doubles down on introducing the evil of his film. In the opening sequence, we get the premise of the film, and we get an idea of what the evil in this film is going to be like. But in the second sequence, when we move to 300 years later, we actually get to see the evil, and we actually get to see how this evil does not give a shit, and no matter what you do, you can't defeat it. It just keeps coming and coming and coming like a giant specter. So the first two scenes of this movie really stack the table and really let the audience know that there is going to have to be somebody really special and unique to go against this evil to defeat it. Because if it's not somebody really special and if it's not somebody really special and unique, like a cab driver from New York, the world is going to be fucked and we're all going to die. So I absolutely love how Luc Besson pushes the myth of his villain in this piece in the first two scenes. It's absolutely phenomenal. And guys, we haven't even got started yet.
Listen, I've seen how cab drivers drive in New York and it is crazy. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that the cab driver is the one that saves the world.
One thing, can I get an amen for the lovely Luke Perry who's in this film? Um,
Ah, yeah, he's in the opening scene. He plays the archaeologist's assistant. Yeah.
oh man,
You're
oh
like, look,
that, yeah. That hit me where I live. Pike. Oh,
Pike from
Pike
Buffy.
isn't
Pike from
Pike.
Buffy.
Yeah.
Pike's a fish. Okay, we're going on a tangent. Let's get back. Let's get back.
I'm
Let's get back
sorry.
to the story.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So now we're in South Brooklyn, New York, and we are introduced to Bruce Willis, who plays obviously Corbin Dallas. The first thing he does when he wakes up is he lights a cigarette and he opens the fridge. There's nothing in the fridge, but he has a cat, and I like that he has a cat. But what that shows is he's got a sensitive side. He likes animals, so he's a nice guy. So Luc Besson really he wanted to offset that almost John McClane kind of masculinity with, oh, but he has a sweet cat and he's really worried about his cat and he likes his cat. So I really like how they did that there. The TV, he puts the TV on and there's an advertisement with Ruby Rod. The first time I watched this in the cinema, I was like, fuck this character. What the fuck? Like, but subsequently, as I watched it again and again, I actually quite like Ruby Rod. I think that he brings a lot to the movie. What say you?
Ruby Rod is without a shadow of a doubt the most annoying, self-centered fucking character in a science fiction movie ever. But as a kid, I enjoy him. As an adult, I understand his purpose in the story, but as I've gotten older, he's got more and more degrading as I've gotten older. But he is played brilliantly by Chris Tucker, absolutely brilliantly.
Perfectly, perfectly. I think I like Ruby Rod because when he's introduced, it's like he's really confident and he's this like big star and famous and stuff. But when shit hits the fan, he's like Hudson in Aliens, where it's just like really cocky, but then when shit goes sideways, he's like cowering in a corner crying. That's what Ruby Rod is. And that's why I like this character so much because it's relatable. It's relatable. Anyway, moving on with the scene. Dallas gets a knock at the door. I love this scene. It always makes me laugh. And it's a guy holding him a gun. And he's like, give me your money. And this guy's like really short and he's got this weird like hat on his head. And Dallas is like, you need to push the button on the side. It's not like loaded properly. And the guy's like, what? He's like, no, I can like push it for you if you want. He's like, no. He goes, yep, just push that. And he pushes it and it like cocks the gun. And he's like, all right, give me your money. And Dallas pulls out a gun and pulls a gun on him. And the guy just like crumbles like Superman on laundry day, takes the gun from him, knows exactly what model it is, and he presses a button in his apartment and this whole stack of guns come down. So obviously this happens a lot. And then after that, we learned that Dallas gets in his cab. He's a cab driver, and the door opens, and there's basically flying cars. And when I saw this in the cinema, this is the type of sci-fi movie I like. I don't like sci-fi movies, as you know, as Marcelo knows, where it's just desert because it's a cop out. I like sci-fi movies where there's flying cars, and there's everything that is the fifth element. And you go for holidays on like other planets and stuff, like even almost Total Recall. So I loved it. I love the flying car aspect. I wish we had flying cars, although maybe it would be a problem. But anyway, thoughts?
I think that by Luc Besson putting in a scene where Dallas has to interact with somebody who is trying to rob him and somebody who is trying to take his money shows him to be more of a sympathetic character than him having a simple cat. Because I think if Corbin Dallas was a real rough around the edges John McClane type, he would have fucking knocked this poor guy out and turned him over to the police. But the fact that he didn't, the fact that he let this nutball go, shows you everything that you need to know about Corbin Dallas as a character. He only gets serious around people who are dangerous. He doesn't hurt people who don't deserve it or who aren't mentally all there. And that's
Mm,
what I really like about Corbin Dallas as a character.
mm.
I really think that Luc Besson, as a storyteller, writes a specific style of science fiction, and I like to call it bright science fiction. He doesn't
Mm.
write anything dour or anything like Dune or anything like Star
True.
Wars or anything of that ilk. All his science fiction movies, or at least a good number of them, are bright and hopeful to a point.
Yes,
Not
yes.
all it's not all doom and gloom.
Vito Cornelius is still with the president, and he tells them they have 48 hours until until this planet gets to Earth and destroys everything. Now, the alien race from the start, he tells him, has a weapon that can defeat it. Four elements gathered around a fifth, supreme being, created to protect life. It produces the light of creation. But if evil stands in the place of the fifth element, then the world will be plunged into darkness. The alien race requests permission to enter Earth's space, and it's granted. But as it enters, two kind of scout ships from another ship, another race, come zooming in behind it and basically destroy the ship. And Vito sees this and he slumps in his chair and he said, "We are lost." Okay. I don't know how two scout ships could blow up a ship that's like 30 million quadrillion times its like size. That didn't make sense to me.
When Agnot and his troop blow up the alien spaceship with the good aliens inside of it, that's the one part of this movie where I say Luc Besson needed something to happen to push the story forward. That's the one part in this movie where I will give him the benefit of the doubt and I will give him my famous writer's convenience, because this story, from a structural standpoint, is so well constructed and is so fascinating and so fun that I'm willing to give Luc Besson the benefit of the doubt, and I'm willing to give him that space to do a scene that doesn't necessarily make sense, but he needed it to happen to push the story forward. Now, granted, I would have done something different, but with that being said, I don't know how I could say that I would have done it different, but I don't know what I would have done different to achieve the same effect.
No, I agree. I agree. He needed something to happen and it happened. It's just like I love this movie. I'm not going to throw shade at it. Go throw shade. So upon investigating the crash site, they find one living organism in it looks like a metal glove, and they bring it back to the lab. And the scientist says that the DNA in this shell thing that looks like a glove is human, but very, very advanced. So a machine starts to reconstruct the DNA into human form, and it forms into Mila Jovovich, into a 19-year-old Mila Jovovich with red hair. She starts speaking in an unknown language. She ends up escaping. She finds a way outside, and she's like 20 stories up. Now listen, the acting on Mila Jovovich when she steps outside and she's 20 stories up. And remember, she's come from nothing and been turned into a human. This is the first time she's seeing any of this. And the acting, just the close up that Luke uses on her face, and you can tell she's confused, she's scared, she doesn't know what to do, like all in like one shot. It's beautiful acting by Miller. So the police are after her when she jumps off the building in a magnificent swan dive and lands in Corbin Dallas's cab. Now, Corbin pulls over and the police arrive and they're like, "Look, just stay there. We're getting her out." She starts speaking in her language. He goes, "Look, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want any trouble. Like, I've only got 2 points left on my license. I can't, I don't want any more, like, kind of demerit points." And she sees an ad in the back of his cab that says, "Please help." And so she mimics it and starts saying, "Please help." And at first he doesn't, but then he decides to help and speeds off. And there's like a cool flying car chase. And then she tells Dallas priest Vito Cornelius. And I love the McDonald's sponsorship. I don't know how much they paid, but I liked it.
The introduction of the fifth element into this movie, played by Mila Jovovich, is fantastic. And I do agree with you. Once she escapes the medical facility that she's in, when she steps outside onto the ledge and she sees the future and she sees all the flying cars, nothing needs to be said, or Mila herself doesn't have to say anything. All that Luc Besson has to do, like Dean said, is just push in on her face. And Mila Jovovich, I don't believe had anything. I believe had one other film before The Fifth Element, and just the acting on her face, most all the emotions that her character is feeling at this specific moment, and it's just wonderful acting, and it's wonderful directing by Luc Besson. I love the moment before she steps out onto the ledge, and one of the police officers that are chasing her he goes, "Do you understand a word that I'm saying to you?" And then Mila just peeks at him, and then she just goes back outside, and he goes, "She doesn't understand anything."
Yeah.
Like it's such a good simple comedic moment that I
Mm.
just love it. And when Mila jumps off of the ledge and she falls into Corbin Dallas's cab, it's like the most lucky, ironic thing ever, because the only thing that Corbin Dallas wants throughout this whole movie is he wants one perfect woman, because he believes that the key to him being happy and his happiness is to find the perfect woman. And lo and behold, the perfect woman crashes into his fucking cab.
Yeah.
It's fucking phenomenal.
Dallas ends up finding Vito and brings her in, and brings Mila Jovovich in. She's passed out. And he says she asked for him and he found his name in the phone book and here she is. And Vito sees a tattoo on her wrist and freaks out and realizes she's the fifth element. Oh shit. Now, Vito says the language that she's speaking is the divine language before time was time, which I thought was cool. Dallas asks her, "What is your name? Like, what can I call you?" And she gives him this long ass, like, I actually had the subtitles on, and like what she says is like crazy. Like, it's just fucking letters. And he says, "Do you have anything like shorter?" And she says, "Lilu." And he goes, "Okay, Lilu." So now we know her name, which that's a pretty cool name. It's a pretty cool name.
I absolutely love the scene where Corbin brings Lilo to Cornelius and Cornelius' assistant David, because Cornelius is like the most fucking nervous fucking preacher guy I've ever seen in my life, and not to mention his assistant David, who fucking gets nervous, at a drop, at a drop of water falling on the floor. But the thing that I love about the scene so much is that throughout the whole movie, we are led to believe that the fifth element is going to be the weapon against evil that is going to save us all. But I don't think that we really get a good picture of the reverence that individuals have for her who understand who she is.
Mm.
And the way that Cornelius acts around her and the reverence that he shows to her when she's actually in the room is so great. Did you pick up on any of that? Because I did. I got that. I got that in spades.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked up on all of it, of course. So Lilu's on the computer and she's learning Earth's history. She's speed reading everything, which includes learning English because she's a supreme being, so she can do that. So that totally makes sense. Cornelius asks where the stones are, and she says they were stolen, but she knows where they are, right? Because she's connected to them, so she knows exactly energetically where they are. And now we meet Zorg, played by Gary Oldman. Now Zorg is interesting. He's like a little kid that chucks tantrums. I don't find him a villain in any way, shape, or form. I just find him like an annoying mosquito that just want to swat. But Gary Oldman plays him like very, very well. And he had his minions are the ones that blew up the alien ship, and they bring him a case that they think has the stones because he's got. That's why they blew up the ship. They wanted the stones. They put the case down, and he opens it and it's empty, and he loses it. Like, he just fucking loses it, and he's like, I want to see the priest because he knows about Cornelius, and he knows Cornelius has knowledge. So he says he wants to see the priest. We go back to Lilu, and Lilu says that the Guardians, the aliens, she calls them the Guardians, gave the stones to someone that they could trust, and she's supposed to contact the person at a specific hotel.
Zorg is fucking awesome. As a kid, he scared the ever loving shit out of me. I
Really?
mean, come on,
Oh my
he's
god.
awesome. Okay,
Oh man.
listen. When Agnat brings him the box and he opens up the box, he goes, "It's empty." You brought me an empty case? What the hell am I supposed to do with an empty case? There's a really quick moment when, after Zorg has his freak out about Agnot bringing him back a box without the stones in it, Luc Besson does a really quick cut explaining what's supposed to be in the box.
Mhm.
And I think that that's a really, really good editorial choice by Luc Besson. He could have done it in multiple ways. He could have fed it to us. He could have fed it to us by just giving us boring exposition, but he didn't do that. He decided to tell us how these stones work and the importance of these stones in his story to us in the most creative way that he possibly could. And I really like the way that he did that. And also, I like how, at least for a couple scenes, the story shifts from a focus on Corbin Dallas to a focus on Lilu. And I like how, for a couple scenes, until Corbin gets reintroduced, we are following Lilu and we are on the hunt for the stones and getting them away from Zorg or trying to find them essentially.
Yeah. So Zorg summons Vito Cornelius and tells him that basically calm is boring, but chaos brings people to life. It gives people something to do. Otherwise, nobody's got anything to do. And he finds it more interesting. And then he eats a cherry that gets stuck in his throat. And he's pressing everything he can, the doors, the lights, like he's trying to summon someone to come and help him. Nobody's coming, nobody's there. And Vito sees this, and Vito takes his time in helping him, letting him know that basically, no matter what your preference is or how much power you have, something simple like a cherry can be your downfall. And then he smacks his back, and the cherry comes out. What I don't understand is why didn't Vito just let him choke on the cherry? It's like, there you go. It's over. It's over. Like, Vito, as a priest, I understand maybe that goes against his beliefs, but this guy's bad and this guy kills people. Like, this is the guy that killed the guardians of the element, the four elements and the fifth element. Like, just, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like, maybe I'm not a good person, but, kill one to save the many. I would have just let him choke.
If Cornelius let Zorg choke, Cornelius still would have had the problem of finding the stones, and Luke could have changed the focus of the story and could have introduced sub-villains. He could have continued the story with Agnot's people, and Agnot's people could have been the ones that had the stones. So so listen, I think the reason why Luke didn't let Cornelius stand there while Zorg choked on the cherry is because he was played by Gary Oldman, and Gary Oldman was probably very expensive. Um,
Yeah. I mean, I get it, but story
yeah,
wise, I'm like,
yeah. No, but listen. Um, I look. I understand where you're coming from. And a fifth element without Zorg, or a fifth element with Zorg dying halfway through, is appealing to me. But there's so much about the fifth element that is coded by Zorg's childlike personality and childlike villainy that I can't imagine the film without him.
I didn't want Zorg to die. I wanted Vito to have a reason to save his life.
No, I'll give you one. He's a priest.
Oh, well, fuck. So a military officer speaks to the president saying he's spoken to the alien race, the Guardians, who told him that they gave the stones to a diva who was singing at a charity ball in Floston Paradise in a few hours. One of Zorg's men has put a camera on like a cockroach and is listening into the conversation. And the military guy says, I have the perfect guy to retrieve the stones.
I love that scene, but the thing I love about the scene so much, as the guy who is listening to the conversation with an antenna on top of a cockroach, and that guy actually works for Zorg. But as he gets closer and closer to the president, you think that this guy's going to get the whole plan laid out in front of his face. But there's a moment where the president takes off his shoe and he squashes the bug on
Mhm.
the table. After he squashes the bug on the table, Luc Besson does a quick cut to Zorg's guy blowing his ears off and taking the head. It's so funny. It's just a really, really quick moment. But I really, really love it. And the other thing about the scene that I love is when the general says, "I had the perfect guy for I had the perfect guy for the job." The story shifts again from Lilu's journey to Corbin Dallas's journey.
Mhm.
So I love how Luc Besson, in the middle of his movie, has kind of switched up the people that we follow throughout the story. I really think that's
Mm.
a creative way to do it. Instead of giving us one central character, he gives us two.
Yeah. Yeah. So Dallas gets a call from his mum telling him, I can't believe you didn't tell me you won the tickets. Like, why I gave birth to you. You've never done anything for me. Like typical like New York, Brooklyn accent. And he's like, what? And she goes, it's all over the radio. You won a trip for two to Floston Paradise. And he's like, what? And then there's a knock at the door, and it's these military dudes, and they call him Major. And he tells the military guy tells Dallas that he's to retrieve the stones from the diva on Floston Paradise, and they rigged the whole contest so he would win the tickets so it wouldn't look suspicious. Now the military guy then says the reason Dallas was chosen was he is an expert in the use of all weapons and spacecraft needed for the mission. Now there's another knock at the door. Lilu is knocking, and Dallas shoves the military guys into the fridge because he doesn't want her to see them, and then opens the door. Lilu is with Vito, who demands the winning tickets because she knows where the stones are. The stones are on Floston Paradise. They have nowhere to get there. They've heard on the radio he's won the tickets, so they need the tickets. And now the police arrive to nab Dallas, but they end up taking the wrong guy. And then the aliens who shot the craft down at the start take the guy from the police, who is the wrong guy, but they think it's Dallas, to negotiate with Zorg because Zorg fucked them over. So if they have Dallas and Zorg wants Dallas, blah, blah, blah. It's a whole fucking thing. Now, Vito knocks Dallas out and steals the tickets. That's a chunky, chunky scene. It's well written and well directed. It's just chunky, but it does push the story forward.
That scene is particularly heavy, but the thing that I like about it the most is that after Dallas is presented with his dream vacation, the story gives him an opportunity to go on a mission with his dream girl again and to be able to attain that impossible girl that he's been chasing throughout the whole movie, and it also gives him an opportunity to save the universe again. But as a kid, I love the moment but before Cornelius and Lilu knock at the door, or as Cornelius and Lilu are knocking at the door, I love the moment when Corbin stuffs the general and his other cronies into the freezer. As a kid, I thought, isn't that murder? Because he just leaves them there,
Yeah, I know.
doesn't he?
Well, he opens the door when he leaves, so I guess they'll defrost.
But still, I'm counting that as murder. But again, I really like the way that Luc Besson is sort of weaving the story that he's telling, and I really like how everything that is happening to the two leads in this film, Lilu and Corbin, everything happens to them organically. Nothing seems forced or nothing seems by coincidence except the moment when Corbin met Lilu when she, crashed into his cab. But everything after that,
Mm,
everything seems to flow with
yes.
the story. Nothing from a story perspective is put in there because it has to happen. And I really, really enjoy that type of storytelling.
Yeah, it just flows. Each scene flows into the next scene. It's not forced. So we're at the airport, and Vito tells his assistant, you have to go with Lilu through security because you have to pretend to be Dallas. I can't, I'm too old, so you have to pretend. And then Dallas catches up with them, annoyed, shoves the assistant out of the way, and we get the iconic multipass scene.
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Yeah. Leela and Multipass. You know this Multipass. Leela Dallas, my wife. We're newlyweds. Just met.
Multipass.
You know how it is. Bump into each other. Sparks happen. Yeah, she knows it's a Multipass. Yeah, anyway, we're in love.
Dallas and Lilu enter the transport when he's taken to meet Ruby Rod because he won the contest, and Ruby Rod does like this like podcast radio thing, and he wants to talk to the contest winner, but every time he asks Dallas a question, Dallas is just like a one word showman. He's like, yes, okay. Ruby Rose is like getting the shits. So Dallas catches up with Lilo and he tells her people are after them, so you really need to be careful. And she looks at him and she says, me, fifth element, me, supreme being, me, protect you. But there's one thing I want to talk about in that scene, and it is the sleep regulators that put the passengers to sleep during flight. Sign me the fuck up. Sign me up for a sleep regulator on long haul flights. Somebody please make this. I'm not talking about a pill. That's bullshit. The stewardesses press a button and you're out until it lands and then you're up. Fucking someone make this. Someone put me in a pod on a plane and fucking make a sleep regulator. Anyway, thoughts?
No, I'm going to listen. I'm going to address the sleep regulators right off the bat. The sleep regulators are a good question, but what about hibernation pods? Like Alien. Just do that.
Yeah, I guess same. I guess.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, same.
But listen, I love the scene when David tries to get on the plane with Lilu, and I love the iconic scene when Lilu, like Dean said, goes up to the checking girl before they get on the plane, and she goes multi pass, and when Corbin shows up, he goes, she gets it. It's a multi pass. She gets it. It's such a good scene, but I also love the introduction of the Scream Queen in this movie, Chris Tucker. And like Dean said, he's like a radio jockey of the future. And watching his energy go against Corbin Dallas's energy, which is basically nothing, is absolutely wonderful. I don't know if the character of Ruby Rod was written like this on the page, but Chris Tucker gave him such a magnetic, annoying energy that it's so good. I don't know if half of that was Chris Tucker or if that's all Luc Besson. I have no idea, but it's just great.
I think it's both because the role was originally offered to Prince. That's Luc Besson modeled that character off of Prince, like very flamboyant, very, very much how the character is, but Prince didn't want anything to do with it. And then he went to Chris Tucker, and Chris Tucker was like, at first he was like, but then he really kind of grasped who Ruby Rod was and said that he had a lot of fun. So Zorg, back to Zorg. Zorg gets a phone call from someone called Mr. Shadow. Now we see he's speaking to the planet entity, and Zorg is scared. So this is the first time we see Zorg basically cowering and emotionally in a corner. So the entity asks, I want the stones. Where are the stones? So Zorg is basically tasked to get the stones for the entity. And Zorg says he needs more money, which that Mr. Shadow goes, yeah, okay, I'll give you more money. And then Zorg starts to sweat, and it's like blood. Like, it's really weird. It's blood, but it's like darker. I don't know. But we do learn that Zorg is actually working for the entity. So, thoughts?
That scene is really, really confusing to me because not only do we find out that Zorg is a fucking mama's boy, whipping boy, and he works for Mr. Shadow, or aka the planet that's going to come and kill us all. But the thing that's really unsettling about that is, like Dean said, as Zorg is talking to Mr. Shadow, he starts to bleed from the head, and I'm like, does Mr. Shadow have that effect on everybody? And he does, because if you remember at the beginning of this movie, the second scene in the movie, when the military guys were trying to kill Mr. Shadow or the giant planet, the guy that was in charge of the ship that Mr. Shadow blew up eventually started to bleed from the head.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
So when normal people are actually confronted with the shadow, and when normal people are in front of the shadow, a sense of fear comes over them so vast that they start to bleed. How fucking cool is that?
That's pretty cool. I didn't think of that, but
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. So now we're in the hotel of Floston Paradise, and we see the diva. I love this character. She arrives, she's with her entourage, she's a foreboding figure. She's 7 to 8 foot tall in a large blue shawl thing. We can only see her eyes. And the diva stops in the hallway. She stares down the hallway into nothing and whispers to her assistant something. So the assistant goes to the end of the hallway and we see Lilu just around the corner. The assistant says, "The diva is glad you're here and will give you what you came to get after the concert." So the diva could sense Lilu. Didn't see her, but could sense her because Lilu is the fifth element, and Lilu could sense the diva because the diva has the stones. So that to me made complete sense. Thoughts?
I really love the introduction to the diva, and the diva is the individual who is carrying the stones if you're not paying attention. But there's something so romantic and so foreboding about this character. Her time in the movie is so short and is so minute that I would actually love like if Luc Besson did a comic explaining where this diva came from and what her race is and how she has the powers that she has. This diva character has had such a interesting impact on me when it comes to this particular film. I'm fascinated by her as a character in her own right.
Me too. I would love to have a story that's just this character. I love her. I think she's fantastic. So now we're at the Divas concert and Corbin is in the audience. And we see the diva and she's like full on, like without the shawl. She's really cool alien design. One of the best I've seen. She's all blue. Reminds me of like a squid thing or like a Star Trek alien. That's what she reminds me of. She's just really cool. And she starts singing opera. And while the performance is going on, Lilu, because she's in the hallway waiting for the diva to return. She's not at the concert. She sees the aliens ransack the diva's room looking for the stones, and she takes them all out very, very easily. It's the first time we see Lilu actually kicking ass, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Thoughts?
I really love the sequence of Agnot and his team ransacking the diva's room while the diva is singing to the whole hotel. But the thing that I love about it is the diva's concert goes from deep opera to this hip hoppy sort of thing halfway through the sequence. And when it switches over to the hip hoppy sort of thing, Luc Besson and his editor do a sequence of cuts between the opera performance and Lilu kicking ass in the hotel. And it's such a wonderfully edited scene. There's comedy, there's action in it, and it's so fun to see Mila Jovovich kick some ass. I mean, look, I love Mila Jovovich because of this movie and because of her Resident Evil stuff. So it was very odd for me to watch a Mila Jovovich film and not see her kick something. But
Yeah.
but it's so fun to see her this early in her career because her talent and what she brings to her films as an actress really comes through in this action sequence that's edited and shot perfectly by Luc Besson, I thought.
Yeah, it is. It really is. So Zorg arrives at the hotel and basically shoots at Lilu and the aliens. And the aliens he shoots at Lilu and then we switch and the aliens start shooting up at the concert hall and they shoot the diva. Now the diva falls down. Corbin goes to see if she's okay and she tells him, "You must give her the stones, the fifth element, the supreme being sent to Earth to save the universe." Dallas asks, "Where are the stones?" And she says, "They're in me." So he reaches into her stomach and pulls them out. And then basically all hell breaks loose and Dallas basically it's a really cool action scene. I'm not going to bother with like specifics, but he wastes the rest of the aliens while Ruby Rod hides in the corner, which is actually quite funny. He brings a lot of tension relief to the scene. Meanwhile, Zorg leaves the hotel after basically shooting Lilu, thinking he has the stones. But he will soon realize in a funny ass scene once he's away from the planet and he opens the case, the stones aren't in there and he just panics like a child. He's just like stamping his feet like fuck again. But before he left, he set a bomb to go off in like fucking like 4 hours or something. So you've got that as well. It's just a funny scene. Just his face when he realizes, he goes into that maniacal laugh like fuck again. It's quite funny.
They're not here. They're not here.
And he just starts shaking, like having on the verge of a panic attack. Like, what the fuck?
They're not here. Oh my god! Oh my god! Okay, Gary Oldman in that part of the movie, guys, is gold. He plays Zorg so well. But listen, I love the moment when the Agnod and his crew basically have a crazy idea because they can't find the stones, and basically they take the entire hotel hostage. But the moment that really puzzles me is, okay, the diva is carrying the stones, but how did they put the stones into the diva? Did she eat them, or did she have to get like a surgery or something? Like,
Well,
how did that happen?
we don't know how her anatomy works, so we don't
Right, that's
know.
true. That's true.
So I don't have an issue
But-
with that because she's an alien and I don't know how her body works. So Dallas goes back to the hotel room and finds Lilu shot by Zorg. And Ruby follows, and I like Ruby because he's just funny. He looks at the door because Zorg has left a bomb, and he's like, what is this? What is this thing? What is this thing counting down? What is this?" And he pulls Vito over. He goes, "What is this?" And then Vito starts having a panic attack because he knows what it is. But it's a Ruby goes, "No, do not tell me that, because no, it's not a bomb. The hotel has bomb sensors, and if it was a bomb, the sensors will be going off." And then the bomb sensors start going off, and then he starts panicking, and it says they have 2 minutes to evacuate the whole hotel. By this time, Zorg's realized he doesn't have the stone, so he's gone back to the hotel. He goes back to the room, and he manages to turn off the bomb like 2 seconds before it goes off. And it's like, okay, cool. But then he turns around only to be presented with another bomb put there by the aliens. And Zorg is just like, And then fucking kabooey. Zorg's dead. That's it.
Look. I love the moment when Zorg goes back to the hotel in search for the stones again, and as he gets off his ship, the hotel security goes, "Sir, you can't dock here because there's a bomb at the hotel." He shoots the guys, he shoots them dead, and he says, "I know." I love that moment. I don't know what it is about Gary Oldman's line delivery, but I absolutely love it.
So the military see that the giant fireball planet is rushing towards Earth, and the president tells Dallas that they have just under 2 hours until it hits and destroys Earth. Now, Dallas, Vito's assistant, and Ruby and Lilu get to Egypt, get to the same temple that we started at at the beginning, and they place Lilu in the middle of the temple, and they place the elements around her. But nothing happens. And Lilu tells them that the elements respond to what they are. So water for water, fire for fire, like etc. So they end up opening the elements, but Lilu doesn't want to complete the ritual because they need her to basically be on board with this. And Dallas says, "What's the problem?" And she says, basically, "Why? I've seen the horror of your world. All you do is kill people. Like, why is Earth worth saving?" Which, like, she's not wrong, because she's a supreme being. She doesn't understand war. She doesn't know why people kill each other and hurt each other. She doesn't have an understanding of why someone would do that. And Dallas tells her that he loves her, and when he says it, she feels it, and then opens herself up to the elements, and a light bursts from her chest, and it pushes back basically the rogue entity that's just about to destroy Earth.
Yes! What's wrong with you? What you screaming for? Every 5 minutes there's something, a bomb or something? I'm leaving.
The moment after Corbin and Cornelius and Ruby Rod figure out how to open up the elements around Lilu, and the moment when Corbin says, "Lilu, you got to wake up now. You have to wake up." And there's this really small moment when Corbin is at his wit's end, and Luke does a really small pan over to Cornelius, and Cornelius goes, "Tell her, Corbin." And it's such a lovely romantic moment when Corbin says, "You have to do this right now because the alien race is worth saving because of love," right? And Lilu says, "Why? Nobody's ever going to love me." And then Dallas says, I'm paraphrasing here, but "I love you." It's such a romantic and gooey, lovey scene, and it's my favorite in the whole movie. Right? It's me, guys.
Mhm.
Of course it's the favorite in my whole movie.
Mm.
But like the ending of the film is so wonderful. And then when Lilu opens up and she projects a beam, and she essentially consumes the shadow planet into dust. It's a lovely way to end this movie.
Mhm. So the final scene of the movie, we're back in New York, and the president goes to the lab to see Dallas and Lilu, who are recovering, and the scientist basically checks on them and says, they need like 5 more minutes. And then we see them in like a pod, and they're making love, but they're happy, they're in love, they're making love, and basically that's the end of the movie. That's it.
Yeah, the best thing about that is hearing Corbin's mother curse out the president.
Oh yeah, she calls the president. Yeah, that was pretty funny. Trivia.
Go right ahead.
The divine language that Miller spoke was actually invented by Luc Besson and Mila Jovovich. It has over 400 words, and they frequently had conversations in the language on set. And by the end of filming, they could have full conversations in the divine language.
Wow, that is dedication, folks. I mean, I knew that Luc Besson had been working on the story since he was a kid. So, wow, I mean, that's dedication, man. I mean, that's dedication right there. I love hearing that.
Yeah. The opera singer who dubbed the diva, basically she had to record all the notes separately, and then it was edited together to make the diva was singing, because the opera singer said the note changes were too fast and not humanly possible to sing at once.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
Luc Besson wrote the script when he was in high school and made Dallas a cab driver because his dad was a cab driver.
Oh, that's really cool. That I mean, look, I know a lot about this movie, but I did not know that. That's really cool, and that's a nice tip of the cap to his father. That's great.
Mila Jovovich said in an interview that she had a really tough time when The Fifth Element stopped filming, like finished filming, wrapped, because she'd been filming for 7 months. She'd done the pre-production, obviously the rehearsals, so for 7 months of her life, and she said she was only 19. And she'd never worked on a project for that long, and she got so comfortable in everything that when it ended, obviously it ended, and she didn't have the emotional kind of capacity to kind of deal with it, and she went into like a dark depression because she just couldn't deal with like not playing that character anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really that's something really unfortunate that happens to a lot of actors who really throw themselves into the roles that they get asked to play,
Mm.
and it really takes a strong performer to click in to the individual that they're asked to be on set, but it takes a stronger person to be able to turn it off.
Yes.
And not a lot of actors can turn it off and turn it on,
Mm.
especially young actors like Mila was 19. I
Yeah.
think you said, right?
Yeah.
So it makes complete sense that after 7 months, she she wouldn't know which side is up.
Mm-hmm. Anything else to add before I wrap it up?
No, take us home.
If you enjoyed our season 10 premiere, please consider subscribing and liking, and check out any of our other 90, 80, 90 plus movie reviews we've got out. If you would like to email us or request anything for us to review, you can email us at themixtapepod@aol.com. Coming up next week, we have one of my favorite 90s horror movies of all time. I have seen this movie 1,000 times. I love it every time I see it. We are doing The Faculty. So please come back if you like The Faculty, and we will be reviewing it. As I say every week, if someone is kind enough to make you a mixtape, that must mean that they really love you. The Mixtape Podcast is a Balloonhead Productions presentation.